We're going to make your stance transitions perfect, hopefully in under 4 minutes. Let's start the timer. There are lots of drills or forms where we have to go from pubu up through mabu, often ending here with a punch. But a lot of people struggle to consistently do this smoothly and with power. The key element here, as with our stances in general, is foot positioning. Too wide and it becomes difficult to generate power. Too narrow and the pubu just feels off and you can't get the proper position. You've probably heard the guidance that your feet should be 3.5 steps wide. This is fine advice for beginners who are still trying to build awareness of their body position. Once we get past that though, we need to be a little bit more specific. And this is because our foot to leg ratio differs for each individual, and our ideal stances are dictated by our legs. So what we actually want to do is space our feet about the length of one of our legs apart. This gives us the starting position for pubu. Mabu will then be slightly shorter, and then as we turn to generate power, it will be shorter again. But the good news is that this is all achieved by the foot movement we get moving through the stances. Start by measuring the length of your leg from the floor up to the top of your hip bone. Mark this distance out on the ground, and then step out so that the inner edge of each foot marks this distance. This is roughly where you want your feet if you're going to get into a good low pubu. Turn your feet out and sit down, keeping your weight spread between your legs, rather than all over to the rear leg. To begin with, you may not have the flexibility to go all of the way down, and you can shorten the stance slightly. This will put you in a more suitable position for your mabu spacing. When we move from pubu into mabu, you'll probably find that this feels a little bit too wide, but don't worry, this is perfectly normal. The distance at which we step into mabu from another position during a form, or just a hold, will be slightly narrower. However, this will be too narrow for pubu. Luckily, this isn't a position that we're going to be holding, just transitioning through. And we can alleviate some of this feeling by paying careful attention to our foot angle and position. As we sit in pubu, our front foot is turned out ever so slightly, and our rear foot is around 45 degrees, in line with the knee. As we come up into mabu, pull your toes inwards, bringing them parallel, shortening the space between them. To shorten this even more, you can drag the rear foot in slightly as you transition. Don't overdo it, it's just a small motion. It takes practice to get this as part of a smooth transition, but once you've got it, it's a huge help. Finally, we transition from mabu, twisting our feet and driving our power forward. Although at a surface level, our feet have stayed in the same place and they've just twisted through the 3 stances, these twists and small adjustments as we transition allow us to move through slightly different distances, getting closer to the optimum for each stance. If you found this video useful so far, make sure you give that like button a good hard punch. Maybe even coming all the way from pubu. My final tip for today is to make sure you've got enough flexibility in the lower leg to get your front foot into position for pubu. As I mentioned earlier, it should be slightly turned out, not off at 45 degrees like your rear foot. If you are more like this second position, you need to work on this to make sure the foot twist into mabu is easier. The best way to do this is to practice your pubu by a wall, with your lead foot pressed against it. This will help you stretch out your ankle and calf, getting your foot used to this position. And as an extra benefit, it should help keep those toes facing forward in mabu too. Let me know in the comments below if you've got any questions about this or any other movement. But put together some flexibility, the right foot position for your pubu, and careful use of those small foot adjustments, and you should be mastering this transition in no time. Head to this playlist here if you want more information on the stances. Make sure you subscribe and hit that notification bell so you stay on top of all my future content, and I shall see you in the next one.